Welcome back to Rugby Obsession. I'm pumped for this deep dive. We're tackling Handre Pollard coming home. Big news. Bulls fans are buzzing about this one. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more.
It's a huge moment, not just for the Bulls South African rugby too. You've sent in some great articles and insights. Excited to break this down. What this means for Pollard, the Bulls Super Rugby.
Okay, let's start with the facts. Your article, Handre Pollard Returns to Bulls. Details and Reaction lays it out. 2-year deal starts July 1st, back in Pretoria after Montpellier and Leicester. But he's a different player now, don't you think?
Absolutely not the same guy who left at 24. He's 30 now, 2 World Cup wins. He's got experience playing in 2 tough European leagues. Think about what he's picked up. Adapting to those environments, leadership skills. Playing with international stars. You can't teach that kind of experience.
Right, and the article talks about leveraging that experience. Edgar Rathbone, the Bulls CEO, talks about Pollard's maturity, how it fits with the squad. They've got a young team hoping Pollard can mentor them.
That's key. And we can't forget his time at Leicester. They play structured, forward-oriented style different from the Bulls' more expansive approach. How Pollard reconciles those two styles could be big. Will he adapt to the Bulls? Or bring Leicester's game plan to Pretoria?
Now that's something I want to see. His time in France with Montpellier is going to be valuable too.
Yeah.
Playing in the top 14, one of the toughest competitions. So World Cup experience, 2 different European leagues. That's a lot of knowledge for Loftus. If you love this analysis, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We've got you covered. Deep dives and insights.
And Pollard seems really excited about the move. The article quotes him saying he's excited to be back in familiar territory, but there's purpose in his words. Like he's coming back to achieve something special with the Bulls.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There's a quote where he thanks Leicester for his time. It makes you think about the leader he's become. Values, respect, and loyalty. Those qualities could be big in the Bulls' locker room.
It's interesting how his experience abroad seems to have shaped him as a player and a leader. But the question is, how will that work in Super Rugby? It's a unique competition to challenge his rivalries. Can Pollard bring that European success back home?
That's the million-rand question. We know he can perform on the world stage, but Super Rugby is different. And this is where it gets interesting. The Bulls want to compete with the best in Europe. Do you think this signing is part of a bigger strategy to close that gap?
It's hard to say for sure, but signing someone like Pollard is a statement. They're serious about building a team to challenge the European powerhouses, and they've been making some smart signings lately, not just Pollard, building a squad to challenge on multiple fronts.
You're right. Something special brewing in Pretoria.
Yeah.
But what about the challenges? Bringing in a player like Pollard, European style, isn't always easy. He'll have to adapt Super Rugby, the travel to different teams.
True. The pace and physicality of Super Rugby are different from Europe, and there's always that risk. His arrival could disrupt the team. You have players who've been building something, and then Pollard comes in. It'll be interesting to see how Jake White, the Bulls coach, manages that.
Yeah, good point. It's not just about putting him at fly half and expecting results. There's the whole team dynamic. What about Pollard himself? How will he handle the pressure? Back in the spotlight playing for his old team.
He's not afraid of the big game's proven performer, but coming back to where he's a legend, expectations are high. Fans will expect him to deliver. That's a lot of pressure.
It's like a homecoming tour, but with way higher stakes. And the fans are a big part of this. That article you sent mentioned how excited they are to have him back. See him as a symbol of ambition. A sign that the Bulls are ready to win titles again.
Definitely. There's a real buzz. And it's not just about his skills. It's about what he means for South African rugby. Homegrown talent achieved success overseas. Now he's back to share that experience and inspire young players.
And that brings us back to what you said earlier, the impact on South African rugby. Having Pollard in Super Rugby raises the bar, pushes other teams to improve.
Exactly, like a rising tide lifts all boats. His presence makes it more exciting, more competitive. Good for South African rugby. It's a good reminder, even though players go overseas, they still want to play for their country. Help the game grow here.
It's inspiring for young players. Seeing Pollard come back after all that success abroad, it shows them there's a way. You can reach the top and still come back to your roots. If you're loving this deep dive, subscribe to Rugby Obsession for more.
This whole thing raises a question, though. What if this starts a trend? More South African stars coming back from Europe to play in Super Rugby. Could we see a power shift in the rugby world?
Now that's an interesting thought. Imagine Super Rugby packed with returning Springboks, bringing that experience and desire to win. That would be amazing. For the competition, the fans, and South African rugby, yeah, it really makes you think about the future of Super Rugby. It's exciting. But let's focus on right now. What's the biggest challenge for Pollard coming back to the Bulls?
That's a tough one. I think finding that balance between being a leader and letting the team do their thing. He can't just come in and take over. It's got to be about fitting in with what they've already built.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
He needs to lead, share his knowledge, but also respect the guys who've been there. And speaking of the team, the Bulls have been getting better.
Yeah.
How do you see Pollard working with their game plan?
Well, they like to play attacking rugby, right? Real firepower in the back line. Pollard's playmaking could be huge for them. He can see the gaps, make those passes, and he's got the experience to make the right decisions when it matters.
And his kicking. Don't forget that Pollard is one of the best goal kickers in the world. That's a big plus for the Bulls, especially in those close games where every point counts.
Oh, absolutely. A good kicker can win you games in Super Rugby, and Pollard brings that consistency. But it's not just about him. It's about how he makes the other players better, how he pushes them to be their best.
And that's why this is such a great story. It's not just one guy coming home. It's about what he can do for the whole team, for the competition, for South African rugby. It's about hope and potential, for something special. If you want to follow this story, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We'll be here breaking it all down.
We've talked a lot today, but one thing's for sure, Handre Pollard's return is big news. It's got everyone talking. And as the new Super Rugby season starts, all eyes will be on Pretoria. Will this homecoming be everything we hope for?
We can't wait to find out. Thanks for joining us on Rugby Obsession for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another episode exploring more of the rugby world. Until then, keep that passion for the game alive.